Is it working? Is it working? Is it working? Yes. Know the knower. Testing. Okay. How's your meditation? Did you learn new things and nuances and subtleties? Did you become more familiar with what you are and what you're not? In essence, in truth? Yeah? Good. So no questions then? Or
so there are two things I just want to bring awareness to, and then out of that there's a question that I'd like to ask. So in sitting in awareness of knowing the knower, there's a sense of non-doing, just kind of resting in the knowing.
good.
However, I found that perhaps it would have been more. My senses are more beneficial, so I can rest and know the knower, but at the same time I can also utilize the mind to shift the energy of my architecture. So I was using a pointer, a conceptual pointer, like this does not exist.
Sorry?
I was using a conceptual pointer,
Okay.
like this does not exist. This referring to anything that can be seen or felt or sensed. And I found by doing that, sort of using this does not exist as a form of mantra, it had that effect of penetrating my sense of it anyway, the effect of penetrating deeper that you spoke about. And that to just sit in knowing the knower would be a slower way of transforming my experience. And so to use the mantra of this does not exist, I could feel there's a that penetrating occurs. At the same time, I can know the knower and use the mantra. So I guess I was just really wanting to ask, in your experience, can a concept like that be utilized to a certain depth where you ultimately then transcend the concept into the direct experience of what the concept is pointing to?
Yeah, if you stay with it. You stay with the actual silent, pristine, direct experience. But the mantra can get you there, can show you the door, so to speak, the directions to the destination. And that's great. It's great that you're, in a sense, skipping ahead a little bit. Ideally, what we're going to do is we're going to know the knower and then know that we're not the knower, like a little bit later on.
Right.
So, because when you know the knower and you begin to see the seer, so to speak, you see that you are the seer, then you have this sense of everything being included in that. Like everything somehow belongs to the knower. Everything belongs to that which knows it. Everything exists, appears inside of that which knows it. So you get yourself to that state where you remember, you get out of the overly conceptual mind that projects everything external to itself. You become a little quiet, attentive, know the knower. As a result, everything is like internalized. Now everything is inside of the knower. You know that everything somehow is inside of this light of awareness. Knowing the light of awareness and sensing that all is appearing within it, we gain the conviction we are not the knower. We are beyond the knower. I am that which knows the knower knowing things. I am that which knows the knower and knowing. I'm that which knows the knowing. I'm that which knows the witness. I am before the witness. I am without witnessing. I'm beyond witnessing.
Yeah, I felt that, or how I practice today, it really made me feel like the line that you drew in the very simple picture with the question mark and the circle and the line. It felt like it really put me on that line where I was the line facing the circle, but knowing that there was the question mark beneath the line at the same time.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks.
Nice. Over here.
So first I'd like to thank you for the brilliancy of the meditation teaching of this morning. It was absolutely amazing.
Nice.
And it clarified something for me which I never really understood. So when you said, the first manifestation of the Absolute is awareness, love, light, bliss. And then I all of a sudden realized why I kind of got stuck for a long time in awareness, which was totally familiar to me. And I had, of course, some access to bliss, to love, but not really that much to bliss. And when you were saying that those were still qualities, still qualities, I realized that I didn't really, in some way, maybe, I don't know if it's the right word, but trust bliss, because I always aimed for the absolute. And so when you were talking about that, I suddenly realized if I had gotten into bliss more, I think I would have stayed there and not gone further. And somehow I realize now that this was kind of a wise thing of my whole mechanics of how I work.
Nice.
That I didn't get stuck, so I didn't have access, so I couldn't get stuck there. So that was really like a high effect for something I never understood, why I didn't have that much access to bliss.
Wonderful.
So thank you for that. And then I have a question. Would you say that, those first manifestations, would you say that awareness is like the ground of being, the ground or the empty ground on which creation can take place? And would you say that love is like the intention, and the light is like the energy, and the friction of love and light would form creation? Is that kind of the way it works, or is it different?
Yeah, I don't feel like answering that right now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm having a little bit of a problem knowing what to do with excitement, which sounds really silly, but so this morning, I feel like I got to that spot of knowing the knower, and it's like my whole body, I start to breathe deep, and my whole body like starts to get really big, and yeah, exactly. And then the excitement got so big, it's like, and then I got the giggles, and then I was trying to and then I was trying to say to myself, oh, don't pay attention to the excitement. You have to feel the knower still, but I couldn't even find it. I got totally lost in it. And then my body started to expand, like it started to pull apart is how it felt. And so that's all cool. Like, it was really fun, really, really fun. But I don't know in those situations, it seems to be every time, which doesn't happen very often, but when I do seem to find that space, that spot, whatever it is, the excitement distracts me. And so do I ride the excitement? Is it a good thing, or is it just a distraction that I need to turn my back on I don't really know what to do when I get there.
Well, you can allow yourself to enjoy it because it's part of the bliss. But yeah, if you want to deepen your meditation, you'll have to release any attachment to it.
That'll be hard to do.
Why?
Because it's so fun.
Yeah, until it's not.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, thank you.
It seems like it's generally, might be these lights, generally 1 degree too hot in here in the past few days. Has this been your experience? Or? Yeah? Okay. So maybe turn it down by 1 degree as a standard.
I've been doing the know the knower meditation and the neti meditation in the past. And when I did that at home, and also when I did that yesterday, I felt really, it's hard to describe, but in a bad state, really it just did not feel good. I became very unhappy, or it's not the right, I don't know how to call it, but I just get in a state that does not feel good. And today I meditated, but not with know the knower. I just did my own thing, and that felt good. But I know that, or what I noticed is that I have there's something that is not going right, and that's why I didn't do the meditation today. So I would like to, know what I do wrong or what I could do.
Did you try knowing the one who knows the unhappiness?
No.
Did you continue the practice? Doesn't matter what states arise.
Yeah, that.
What's the nature of the resistance or the argument that comes up for you? Or the guidance? Maybe it's guidance. Why are you unhappy when you know the knower?
What pops up is because I disassociate with being here.
Mm-hmm. And that's not fun?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like fun, no.
Why not? What's the fear? Anything?
Well, what came to mind is the fear is that it didn't feel good, and that also when I did the practice for like a long time in a row back home, people around me said to me, "It's not going very well with you. You are really, I don't know what you are doing, but it's, I didn't feel good. The people around me said it wasn't good, so I have a,
You didn't feel good?
no, I did not feel good.
So what's the cause of that? Well, like, why do you not feel good? Because you know the knower? I've never heard that before.
No, this is a,
Were you knowing the knower, or were you conceptualizing something or creating a separation somewhere?
well, I think I'm creating a separation somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I sense it.
Okay, then don't do that. Just know the knower. It says know the knower. It doesn't say get rid of your family, or don't respond to anyone asking you a question anymore, or I don't know what it looked like that made them uncomfortable with you. Were you just non-responsive?
No, it's when I wasn't. I just became. I was normally responsive, but just instead of happy, I was really. I don't know. In a bad state, or I just didn't feel good that radiates out, and people see that and say, you don't look good. So, yeah.
Do you think you can get clearer by yourself first? Because this is going to take a lot of time otherwise. What it is? What is the nature of your discomfort? Can you find that out, you think?
Well, I've already been trying to do that for a while.
Okay. But you have to give me a little more than I know the knower and then I feel bad. Like, what is the nature of it? Why do you feel bad? What's the thought that comes up? What's the belief system that's there? What's the sense of resistance? What are you creating that's unreal or not true? Give me specifics. What excites you the most in life?
What excites me the most? What?
In life.
In life? Well, excitement, but that can be in many different ways. It can be being with friends I love. It can be dancing.
Mm-hmm.
It can be eating ice cream. Can be.
Is anything in your vocabulary of what you're excited about the absolute? You signed up for this retreat. Maybe know the knower is not your shtick. Maybe you should get out of here. Buy some ice cream, go to dinner, have fun, watch a movie.
Yeah.
You're way too alive for this crowd.
It's well, still it has a. Because what I like about the know the knower and the absolute is like the awareness, love, light, awareness, love, bliss, and no matter what arises, you always have that. You know, the absolute. That sounds like. Great, so the end goal sounds good, but the way I'm getting there doesn't feel good.
What to say?
Yeah. But maybe because what I did today was just, instead of really practicing know the knower, I just was and
Mm-hmm.
felt my heart and sometimes saw nature, and if I opened my eyes, and that just felt really good.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just it, know the knower, not doing anything and trying to see the knower, but just be. Because
Yeah, you could do that. It's a slower approach generally. 'Cause it's more of a marination process, and quite a percentage of what we're doing here is penetrating, which is increasing awareness, increasing aliveness, increasing vividness and alertness, waking up, 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 so that then when you're actually chilling, you're just naturally recognizing the self, just naturally bursts forth. So you can be as you are at whatever level of clarity you're at, so to speak. And that's fine if you don't feel like putting in any work, or if that makes you feel bad. You could just sit this whole thing out and just chill and watch the birds and open your heart, and you could do that. You know, if that feels like it's much more of an entrance point for you and it's much more harmonious, you could try seeing everything as the knower instead of focusing on the knower directly. You do it indirectly. You recognize all being the one infinite creator, or all being the knower, everything being made of love, light, awareness. You could do that. It's a good alternative.
then I'm gonna try that from now on.
Okay.
Until that.
Yeah, for
and
some
then
people that
step
feels
it up
better.
a bit. Then I have a good in-between method.
Nice, that's good. Yeah, because
Thank you.
the other one can create this sense of separation between the knower and the known, which is also false. But so sometimes it's good to practice naming everything by the same name. You are God. You are God. You are God. You are God. This is God. My emotions are God. My bad feelings are God. Everything is God. Just revel in that recognition that all is the one infinite creator. So you can do it through your environment as well.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for sharing. Cutie pie. Yep.
Hi.
Hey.
Um, Knowing the knower became a little bit difficult because I guess I was trying to look for it, look for an object
You were looking for an object?
at the beginning,
Uh-huh.
and then I thought it's formless. Is that right?
Is that which knows the object?
And for me, it was much easier to be aware of the body, sensations,
Mm-hmm.
sounds. Is that the same thing as knowing the knower?
No, not directly, because that's not. It's the recognition of projections of thoughts, of objects, and it misses the subject, so to speak. So it's not the same. I wouldn't say it's the same.
So knowing the knowers,
You could also replace it with see the seer, or be the beer, the one who is being that then witnesses the object. Can you marinate in that recognition, that self-reflection?
it seems like it's I think I'm overlooking, and I already know.
Mm-hmm. Usually the case. What's always already here? What doesn't change? It develops, it requires that we develop a subtle eye, so to speak. Instead of seeing the clouds, you're going to watch the sky or the space between the clouds. It's subtler. So instead of noticing objects, you begin to notice the fact that you see the objects. It's much subtler. It's much more invisible, more formless in that way. Know the knower means be as you are, and know that. Know that you already are. Are you not?
Yes, I guess I'm looking for some effect after that, because I already know.
An effect after that?
Like some change or something, maybe,
A change from what?
from this state.
Okay. You don't like the state?
No.
Okay. Well, it seems to be a lot of people that don't like who they really are today.
And,
So then it's not the knower. If you don't like the state, it's not the knower. Why don't you like the state?
no, I don't like this state of this guy.
He- Of what?
This guy.
That's an
This-
object. That's not the knower.
Right.
Turn within. That's still an outward focus. Looking at your thoughts is not looking within. Looking at your state of being is not looking within. State of being is circumstance. Ultimately. The knower is before the circumstance of the state of being. It's subtle, but when you get it, it won't feel bad. It'll feel clear and lucid and at ease, at the very least.
Okay, thank you.
Are you accepting of the sensations in the state of being?
What was that again?
It becomes much harder to know the knower, generally, if we resist whatever is. Are you resisting what is?
I don't think so.
Can you try not to be aware and see if it's working? Right now?
No, it doesn't work.
Doesn't work? Well, so before you say no, stay there. See if you can keep your attention there a little longer. Of noticing that you cannot not be aware. That you cannot not be. Stay in that gap, that mystery, that recognition, that moment of clarity.
Comes like a memory,
It comes like a memory?
in a sense.
What's looking right now? What's looking out of your eyes? What's hearing my voice? What is that? Can you turn your attention to that? See the seer.
Would it be rest in the seer?
Can you stop thinking? Stop thinking. What remains? That's being. That's awareness. That's the knower. When you radically stop thinking and stop referencing objects and states, you just stop. There's this love is this awareness, this spacious, wide open, ever available, always already here, natural, basic state. Nothing can appear apart from it. Nothing has ever appeared apart from you. It's you. Can you stop thinking?
It's a bad habit.
What?
I have a bad habit of. I was using in the meditation, I was using, I guess, thought as to deepen. But then I saw that I was going around in circles.
Oh, really?
And
Can you stop thinking? Yes or no?
yes,
Nice. What remains when you stop thinking in that split second?
nothing.
Cool, but what remains? Aren't you there?
Yes,
Nice. Can you stay there a little bit more? Can you repeat that recognition over and over again? Until you know that you exist, no matter what. That you are, before you say you are. Before you think anything, aren't you?
yes.
Can you turn attention onto that? Can you inquire into what that is?
Is it without thought I am?
What?
Is it without thought I am?
Is it without that I am, which I am?
Thought.
Is it without thought I am? What are you saying? No, but I don't get the sentence.
Is it without thinking I just am?
Yes. Can you generate greater awareness of that? It's non-conceptual. It's being.
Yes.
Nice. Good. Progress. Good job, buddy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In the meditation today, and I actually experienced this yesterday, my old spiritual teacher, man named Robert, who lived in Sedona 20 years ago, he initially at the meditation, he came to me, along with my father. And my father to me represents happiness, and Robert represents deep peace and being quiet mentally, just being quiet. And they both came to me, and it was like they were walking around, and then they kind of disappeared after a while.
Is this what happened during your meditation?
At the onset, and then as the meditation proceeded, I just felt a peaceful flow, and I'm not sure if that's knowing the knower.
Well, did you know the knower? If not, it wasn't knowing the knower.
Okay,
It was
well,
just a
what it was
peaceful object flowing through your consciousness. You see, knowing the knower is subjective. It's the subject knowing itself. It destroys all objects for that moment.
So, getting quiet.
That's a good start. It's a good
That's
foundation.
what I experienced, getting quiet, and there
Mhm.
was along with that there was a kind of flow.
Uh-huh. Yeah, and none of that matters.
Okay.
because the knower knows that. Also, if it doesn't happen, you can be in chaos and disturbance. The knower still is the knower. That's why it's so effective, and that's why it's so powerful, because it has nothing to do with describing your experience or comparing one state to another. It's direct.
So it's that which is there beyond the experience.
You could label it that way, yes.
Because I think I was looking for something more profound.
Just keep knowing the knower, and the door will open. There's something on the other side of the door.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, thanks.
I'd like to know more about the concept of living as your true self forever and what that means.
Forever?
In the direct means to eternal bliss, it's mentioned, instead of focusing on the temporary, turning your attention to the eternal, and the term is living as your true self forever, I believe. Something like that.
Like never having another focus again.
Yeah. What does that mean?
I haven't attained that yet, so I can't fully tell you. Only tell you what I think it means.
Which is?
Which is that. It's really quite simple. It's just permanent abidance in permanent absorption, and there's no mind left. There's no capacity for individuated thought left. Now I know the state. I just don't reside there permanently with all of my consciousness, so to speak.
So, in another life, when you come back into a body.
Me?
I mean, just the concept.
Phew. Give me 10,000 more articles. I'll take it. Not another life. Also, Luke, the battery is almost dead. Maybe someone can bring a couple of these AAs, I think. But proceed.
That you wouldn't have to go through this remembering anymore once you fully integrate with your true self.
Yes. Depends a little bit on what level we're talking about. Are you familiar with the densities?
Somewhat.
There's incarnations up to 6th density. So, but that's a completely different ball game than incarnation in 3rd density, which is what this is still the remnants of. So it's a little confusing when people say you no longer have to incarnate. Really, that depends on your degree of absorption and how high, how deeply you penetrate it, how profoundly you penetrate it. There's a lot of people that no longer have to become 3rd density incarnate. So they will no longer have a life like this in that way, unless they choose to be a wanderer or to be of service in a particular way, or to fine-tune a certain balance later on in their journey that can only really be done or can be accelerated by incarnating in 3rd density, which is the only density that has the veil of forgetfulness, which allows for unique lessons and balances to be learned. That's why it's such a precious opportunity. I know I just shut it down like it's the most horrible thing, but it was more a joke. More or less a joke. But you all know this, right? It's a love-hate relationship.
Thank you.
So, if we're looking at it from the densities point of view, not from a human point of view, if we look at the evolutionary scale of the cosmos as I believe it operates, 7th density would be the density where there's no more need to recycle body complexes. There's no more need to have incarnation, so to speak. So that's a complete movement towards the love, light, awareness of all that is, merging with that. So up to sixth density, there still is a time-space and a space-time equivalent, or a physical and a metaphysical counterpart. You know, when people speak of spirits or like astral projection and that kind of stuff, can be considered the time-space analogy to our space-time experience. Within the same density, there's a space-time component where we are physical and we're located in space first. Thank you. And time is the experience that we have inside of space, more or less. This is a very simplistic explanation of it, but I don't want to get too detailed, and it's fairly complicated. One second. I've always wondered if they figured out how to do plus minus and plus minus on the same side, why do they still make devices with plus minus and plus minus the other way? Does not make sense. Right? It's not efficient. You have to like grab it out of the pack and then like fumble and turn it around, and if it's a little dark you drop one and you have to like shine your flashlight, and it's really complicated. So unnecessary. We do so many unnecessary things here, it's so fun. From these kind of little things to like every day I notice these things, it's so fun. Yes. Where were we? Space-time, time-space. So just to, again, keep it very simplistic to not get into any details and more confusing concepts. Let's say you're sort of a wandering spirit. You're navigating the astral planes. You can peek into your grandma. You can peek into your family, kind of like the post-death, the way that it's usually symbolized. Imagine that being the time-space equivalent of the space-time experience that you're having now. In that experience, time is malleable. Time is first. You choose time, you choose the consciousness, you choose the time, and then the space arises, so to speak. So space is a product of time more so than time being a product of space, or happening within space. This is like the river of time is flowing through a space. In time-space, it's more that space is the river flowing through time. Time is the container, in a sense, or the decider. That's what you tweak. And imagine this at all these different densities. But there's still being incarnation, even though sixth density is no longer a physical incarnation as we know it. It still is incarnate. It still has the incarnative side, and it still has the discarnate side. Discarnative side. You know what I mean? So seventh density being the state where all that is no longer relevant. There's no longer polarity. There's no longer male-female. There's no longer lovemaking in that way. There's no longer polarity. Polarity dissolves at the end of sixth density, beginning of seventh. And all energy is now turned towards everything has been exhausted in terms of the illusion of creation. No longer is this very helpful for one's own journey. Now this whole consciousness which has reached, as Ra states it, sufficient spiritual mass, now gravitates. Now the lesson is, it's also called the density of foreverness. So it moves into foreverness. It moves into a state of becoming one with all that is, becoming the awareness of all that is. What was your question?
Well, it kind of changed now because
Oh boy.
the concept of living as your true self forever was
yes.
was my question. But then there's also time, which goes in both directions, and
Mhm.
so I am already living as my true self forever.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I guess that kind of answers it.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
So for me, it was quite a struggle, the meditation.
Mm.
And because of the questions now, there came up a question for myself, and I was wondering, like, the question, am I aware? And where I find the answer, is that the moment that I am aware of awareness? So I just did it a couple of times, and I found for sure it's yes, because I'm aware. And I just had the feeling that the moment I find the yes, that is the moment that I'm aware of awareness. But I just wanted to check it.
Are you aware right now?
Yes.
How do you know that?
Because at the moment I ask myself the question, or you asking me the question, I'm like checking in with my awareness.
Nice.
So,
So then you're aware of awareness.
yes.
Great.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That's what it feels like.
Yes.
Just take the moments where you do know, and know when you don't know that you don't know, because it doesn't feel the same way. It's not that same unique, hard to explain sense of clarity, of self-awareness, of, oh, I am. I exist. And the more you do that, the more aware you become of it, the easier it becomes, the more contrasting it becomes when you're not aware of it, the easier it is to drop back into it, to remember it all the time.
Yeah, just like the knower was for me a little abstract.
Mhm.
And now this sentence feels a bit more my
Okay.
own way. But
Yeah.
I wanted to check if it was this same direct way, like if it was
say the
as
sentence.
direct. Am I aware? Like a question.
Yeah.
And then I find the yes for sure.
No,
and
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Feel free to make it your own like this, and also feel free to check in with me, as long as what it produces is the result of knowing that you exist and that you're aware in that moment.
yeah.
As long as that's the experiential shift, then it doesn't matter what motto or mantra or pointer you use. Use whatever works best for you.
Cool.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's why I use so many different words, because different people have different trigger points.
So when you said when you were talking about densities, I wanted to ask you. I was trying to explain densities to a person who was very scientific mind, and he was asking me for a proof, like where is the scientific proof of this? Like, can you I was wondering if you have any source about densities that can make sense to a scientific kind of mind people.
Well, you could read the law of one, see what he thinks.
The what?
The law of one is very scientific. It just doesn't
The
use
loud
any.
one?
The law of one.
Oh, the loud one.
You're familiar with that?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. I just assumed because I mention it so often. But the law of one by Ra. That's where this information is very accurately, clearly described. And it's very scientific in the way it is described, highly scientific. It will appeal to scientific mind. The approach being very scientific, but it doesn't use any human instrumentation, obviously. So it's not science in terms of, can I detect a higher density with my little iPhone app?
Yeah.
It's not prove or science in that way. So nothing gets proven, but the explanations are very clear and scholarly and scientific. So your friend might enjoy that, I don't know, if he's open at all.
Okay.
But it's channeled material. This woman laid down, she went into trance state, she was completely unaware of the conversation, and this sixth density entity would come through and answer questions.
So what was her name again?
Her name
Yeah.
of the channel?
The
So
writer.
the author is Ra, which is the sixth density being.
Okay.
Her name was Carla.
Okay.
Carla Ruckert, I think is how you pronounce it.
All right. Thank you.
thinking of doing a 3 to 5 day event exclusively on the Law of One at some point in spring, maybe. We'll see. Don't know where I'll be yet, but. Any more questions? Or shares? How was your meditation? Nice. Let's go with you.
I have a little more, but it was about the meditation today. So earlier during the morning session, I don't know for what length of time, but roughly the last third of it, I have no idea anything you said because you managed to get me into a deeper state than I've really achieved before, which was cool.
Well, you did that, but thank you.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was a joint cyclical event, right?
Sorry, and are you talking about this morning, or are you talking about the posse grounds?
Both, because it
Okay.
took me into it. So it took me, and I kind of achieved this state, which the first experience of it was in the morning session, the latter third, let's say, and then I was able to take myself into it again during the afternoon meditation, which was basically, it felt like a state of statelessness. Like I really had no, like it seemed like accessing it was just focusing awareness very intensely back onto itself, like drilling into my consciousness, using all of my consciousness that I had available. And then I kind of...
Congratulations.
What's that?
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for the help. Me. So it was like a state of no image, no memory, no thought, no projection, no hearing, no sight, no feelings. And then when I came out of it, it was like, oh, I exist again. And I didn't take anything from, there wasn't like a revelation feeling, it just came out of it into pure, like a really lovely, peaceful feeling, blissful, if you will. And so I'm not really looking for an answer or an explanation, because it felt great. It was new and
Wonderful.
and deeper.
Yeah,
And
thank you for sharing. Just keep digging or rising, however you want to see it.
I think if I did have a question from that state, it would be, how do you explore a state that involves no sense of relevance to anything? It's like hurtling through space without anything to reference your spatial referencing. You're not moving, but you're moving 1,000,000 miles an hour.
And what's the question about that?
How do you explore it?
How do you explore it?
Yeah, do you just be in it?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually, because we're all used to navigating using thought,
Yeah.
more or less. So when we go beyond thought is where the real exploration and the real digging and the real ascending begins.
Yeah.
So it's hard to describe. It's just your free will
Yeah.
on its own. It's just you gather, this is why sometimes it's harder for certain people to sort of go beyond the thought-based state. And for others, it's easier. It's because they've already gathered somehow. They've accumulated more free will. They're more empowered in who they are. They're more disciplined, not in the traditional sense of doing something over and over again, but they have a discipline of a capacity to channel their focus. And so if you lack this capacity, you will find that concentration and staying with one single intention for a longer period of time and intensifying it and intensifying it and intensifying it, but without or as little as possible thought as possible, then you will begin to develop that type of harnessing power. And this is why sometimes jumping into the absolute is a little challenging, because it requires a whole lot of that. It requires a whole lot of desire and will and discipline in that way, the capacity to harness your free will. That's why these penetrative guided meditations are going to be crucial for a lot of you to get your first glimpse or so, or maybe you already have had glimpses, but because this is going to do the work for you, I'm going to do some of the work for you and train you in that way without you needing to have your own capacity yet to be able to mimic that. So that's why it's a little intense on me to do these types of meditations. So that's why I don't always do them. But for the experiment, I will do them.
Cool. Thank you.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So without thought, it's will. It's like intent. It's
Yeah.
like subtlety, but it's also faith. It's a combination of balancing will and faith, like subtler and subtler and
Yeah.
subtler. You're trusting and you're releasing, but at the same time, you're like nudging ever so slightly using this potent intention. And then you let it, and then it's hard to explain.
Yeah, I've entered into similar states through different avenues. One was psychedelics, one was just unimaginable grief, one was intense abuse. Like, there's many different ways I've accessed it, but this was the first time in which it felt peaceful and safe and like I could explore it. And it wasn't something that I was like, oh, holy shit, I gotta go back to my kind of projected circumstances that are much more comfortable.
Wonderful, my
So
friend.
cool, thank you.
Thank you. Lady in front of you.
Hello.
Hey.
So before I heard of you, like a couple years before I heard of you, I put a black hole on my wall.
A real one?
Like, yeah. No.
How's your wall doing?
Like a decal that said "hole to another universe."
A decal?
A decal. A decal.
What's that?
It's like a thing that you can stick on your wall.
Oh, like a poster?
Yeah, kind of.
Why'd
It's
you just say
I
that?
put it on a white wall, so it just looks like it's a hole.
Cool.
So, and then I sat in front of that. This is why it cracks me up when you keep bringing up the black hole. I'm like in the Twilight Zone again. Where I would sit in front of it and meditate and always go into that hole. And basically, I would lose myself completely. And it would almost feel like I became the space, like just space. And then beyond that, I became everything. And there was no separation from anything to what felt like infinity, 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 infinity. And it had such a feeling of, like, I can't explain it, like just pure bliss.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So, and
where did you buy this poster?
you can get it online. You can get it online. What's really funny, though, is after I had done that for so long, I actually peeled that one off my wall and put a different one on that said the other side of infinity, because I felt like I kept wanting to keep going somewhere.
There's another side to infinity?
Apparently there's another side to infinity.
Wow.
So now
You
I
should
sit
teach me.
and I imagine that, and it allows me to lose myself completely, where now it's become bright light that becomes everything.
Nice.
Today, though, when you were doing the guided meditation, I had the strangest feeling where it expanded, but almost like I hit my head on the top of something. I can't explain it. Like I had hit...
Probably the ceiling.
It felt like I was right there and piercing something bigger than I'd ever experienced before.
Approaching something bigger than you've ever
Yeah,
experienced?
like I was right on the cusp. Like it felt, it felt different than anything I had experienced before.
Yeah, it can very much feel like a glass ceiling or like a...
That's what it felt like. It felt like a glass ceiling.
Yeah, so I'd say you could visualize that or symbolize this, and this is conceptual, so don't take it as a concept, but it's just a pointer. You can visualize that as the edge of the universe, or the edge of consciousness, the substratum of consciousness itself. If you see consciousness or awareness, love, isness as the sphere within which the dream of the universe is projected, there's so much to get lost inside of the bubble. But to practice knowing the knower is going to the edge of that bubble. It's going to the actual bubble, the actual substance of the bubble, the substratum, the knowing the knower. That's the substratum. The knower is the substratum of the universe. So to know the knower is to directly dive inward to find the very edge of creation, so to speak. Because it's the container of creation, is you. It's the consciousness. So that can be symbolized visually in a meditation as if you're reaching some kind of a threshold or a wall or a ceiling. It's possible people have described this to me before, and I've had similar experiences. So just keep asking what's beyond that wall. What's always been beyond that ceiling. We want consciousness itself to become an object. We want the I am itself, the subject itself, to begin to be realized to be another appearance. The knower itself, knowing itself, needs to be turned into an appearance, or be understood to be an appearance on the infinite. It's beyond everythingness. It's beyond nothingness. It's timeless, indescribable, absolute, infinite perfection.
I can't wait.
Whee! Well, it sounds like you're primed for it. That's good. Maybe we can get you a third poster. I can help you design it.
I also wanted to thank you for the thing this morning. It was brilliant. Thank you for incarnating and making this available to us in
Why, thank you.
in language that contemporary people. This is such a gift to us. I'm the person who has difficulty sitting for 2 minutes.
The president?
I'm the person who cannot sit for 2 minutes at home to meditate. And today I surprised myself by just sitting for 2 whole hours.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do know the knower per se, but I just sat still because of the cold and just the physical conditions. I just sort of contracted and there were no thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember thinking, oh, I haven't had any thoughts for a long time, you know. Because usually I'm thinking. It's like, what, you know.
Good.
So it was like almost in looking back, I thought, oh, that's good. And then the last 20 minutes, I started my sun gazing, and that started to feel good. So I don't know where that puts me in the continuum of knowing the knower. That I had nothing, the fact that I had no thought, is that like a precursor to that? Or that's my first question, then I have to follow up.
Yeah, it's good, but you want to, at some point, you want to gather the desire, the will, or the energy to ask yourself to wake up there. So it's one thing to not have many thoughts or any thoughts. It's another to be wide awake to the fact that you are. You want to wake up to what's behind that, what knows that, what enables the thoughtless state. Who knows the thoughtless state?
And that's my next question. When I read the Michael Langford book, I was very methodical and got to like 4th or 5th chapter, and then it sort of put it aside, and I thought, I'm going to do this. I'm not going to sabotage myself. So I kept going and going and going. I didn't do A through Z. I just kept going. I had to get through. And then towards the end of the book, there is an...
Let me get to the end.
Oh, no, there's an alternative technique for those. I found, this is so bizarre, I feel like, I found like there was this, knowing the knower was like this little Harry Potter, Hobbit type of character watching, and it sort of was starting to freak me out. Like I was watching myself, and I'm like, oh, it's like something out of the Hobbit or Harry Potter, like that little thing watching me, like from some hole in a tree. Then I thought I couldn't relate to knowing the knower.
You guys have the funniest reactions to know the knower.
Then when he mentioned the other approach, where you do nothing, but you can actually lie down for this one.
Abandon release method?
It's where you just relax. And that, I was like, oh, I can do that. Because I'm not going to sabotage this. I'll still, at least I'm doing it.
That's great.
It's the secondary.
If you relax as much as you can in any type of meditation, or even when you're like sleepy at home, or if you allow your body to sit still and not move for as long as it can, or for a while, to where it sort of enters into a stasis of sorts. And then in that stasis, or even sleepiness, just very gently, very subtly nudge yourself into awareness. Just very subtly maintain an awareness of the sleepiness. It's like deep within the void, within the silence, you maintain an awareness of being, or an awareness of the sleepiness, or of the relaxation, or of the quiet mind. But you want to revive awareness in the space of the quiet mind. It's not about the quiet mind. The quiet mind is more than not a method or means. And it's a very helpful one. It really does help, but
where is the location of the nerve? Is it like I see it in the heart? I know it's locationless, but to help me just get to it, is it in the heart?
Is what in the heart?
The knower. Is it like I was
Well, what would know the heart? And is that which knows the heart inside the heart?
like when you were talking this morning about everything being a holographic projection, my paradigm is that in a very, very minute spark of that holographic projection is the real McCoy. So is that real McCoy what some schools call the permanent atom or something, those kind of vocabulary? Is that located in the heart? The threefold flame, all these words that I've come across in my threefold flame, permanent atom, I don't know
If
what all that
if
is.
you want to use that, you could. I don't generally recommend conceptualizing anything too much. Just know that you know, period. Stop the excuses and the wants and the needs to conceptualize, unless you absolutely have to, otherwise you're not making any progress or something like that. So yes, you could absolutely use the heart as a symbol and drop your consciousness from the head into the heart over and over and over again, and feel the space from the heart, feel the isness, the beingness from the heart. That can definitely be helpful.
And what the other lady said is, when you're aware, you can say, yes, I'm aware, and that's it. That's knowing the knower.
That is know the knower. And just deepen that. Wake up more into knowing the knower. Increase awareness. Turn awareness up inside of that space where you're not reflecting any object for a second. Just aware of itself. Zzz. Explore that. Be interested in that. Zzz. Zzz. Keep reviving awareness. Keep turning up the dial. Keep increasing the brightness on that which you already are. And you can use the heart if that helps you. That's more effective.
I was just amazed I sat for 2 hours.
That's great. Yeah, congrats. That's good. That's good. Progress. All right. So, I was thinking of giving you an assignment tomorrow. Let me feel into it a little bit more. Also, it's going to be 46 degrees and windy. Okay, so tomorrow will be a day, not so much a rest day, but we won't be meeting. So this is a day where you get to spend all day by yourself as much as you can do that. Be quiet as much as you can do that, ideally the whole time. If you have those pins, those buttons, put them on and be quiet. The Only things I recommend you engage with in terms of content, I would recommend you minimize or have no contact with your phone and stuff. Unless it's my session from this morning, you can rewatch that session if you want to. And yeah, as so you can watch that again. And it's also okay if you read The Direct Means to Eternal Bliss by Michael Langford or The 7 Steps to Awakening. So if you happen to have those books, which I've recommended in the past, if not, I recommend you get them to read and enjoy after this event. Not necessarily, but if you feel like it, if you feel like having that continual support in the form of reading, I would recommend those 2 books. And that's it. Basically, just do the meditation, but by yourself. See the difference. Just drop in, meditate, contemplate, watch my session from this morning again. Meditate, contemplate, be by yourself. It's a different space than to meet here. It can be more powerful sometimes. It can be more intense and more beautiful. And if you're having any processes, just send it as much love as you can. Just hold as much love, acceptance for these challenges or these releases or these confusions that might happen. And just subtly, gently recognize the knower. Recognize the being. Recognize that all is rested in this wide open expanse of love, isness, awareness. Just deepen, do the practice that we did today. No class tomorrow at all. Well, the class is you. The class is your solitude and silence. So I highly recommend the silence. Just keep silent if you can until the morning, the day after. Correct, sir. Yeah. In fact, you never have. Your free class dismissed. But no, I don't want you to see this as a vacation day. I really want you to understand that this is part of the retreat. So focus on the practice. But I want you to have a whole day by yourself where you get to go out into nature or just be by yourself, lock yourself in a room, whatever it takes. Stay silent, engage as little as you can, avoid your phone, avoid your computer, avoid books unless it's either those books that I mentioned or the video. And just, it's so rich to be in a space without other people, without having to talk, without distractions. And honestly, I think this is one of the most powerful things we can do at this stage in the retreat, and it will both clear out a lot of frustrations and sort of hidden energies that will be purged to the surface when you spend so much time with just yourself and no distractions. You will go through some difficult phases, and you will have some releases, and you will have a few meditations that day, or you can see it as a continual meditation, contemplation. But you can get some really rich gems and insights and realizations and releases out of this. So really do see it as part of the retreat. This is not a free vacation day. This is part of the retreat. So make absolute use of it, because also a little bit depending on what I feel the next day, the next morning, based on the group feel, it will determine a little bit as to what stage or angle we're going to take next. So it really is up to you guys. So take this as deep and as true as you can. Question about this? Is who okay? Writing, you can write. Yes, you can write. You can do yoga and movement, yep. There's 2 people in one hotel room. That's fine, just both be quiet. Or, one person gets the restroom, the other gets the bedroom. And occasionally you'll need to switch because, unless you're dry fasting. You can take a drive. Yeah, and think. What? Um, I wouldn't recommend it unless you feel really strongly that this will work for you to drop you internally. The reason I'd say I don't necessarily recommend it is because it's an externalized activity. Why would you go to the Grand Canyon if you're everywhere? Find out how you are the source of the Grand Canyon, which you can do from a prison cell or from your home. But I've had great support just driving my car by myself. But it wasn't about sightseeing. It wasn't about going somewhere, doing somewhere, paying for something to go, whatever. It wasn't entertainment. It's just the motion of driving. Now, I don't generally recommend this because I don't want to be responsible for any car crashes, but I know that was very helpful at times in my experience. So, thank you for that, because it brings me to recommend something else that I haven't recommended yet, which is walking meditation. For me, this has always been really powerful. Just a very boring hike. It can be beautiful, but it's not about the outward. Just have a very easy, simple hike, flat, where you don't have to focus too much on your feet. Can even be a track, or around the Posse Grounds Pavilion or something like that. Or around a parking lot. Really doesn't matter. Just don't say that you're part of this retreat when you keep walking circles. What are you doing? Well, you're in silence. At least you can't tell on me. So, see it as putting your body in sort of a trance state where it goes on automatic pilot, and just, for me, it has generally helped to really harness that capacity to focus somehow, to drop in, to let the environment disappear, ironically, even though you're moving. But put yourself in a trance. Easy hike, repetitive, and allow the body and the mind to sort of become quiet. And through that walking, there's something really powerful that can happen. Not for everyone. It doesn't work for everyone, but you could try that too. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, you could do that too. Yeah, that's nice. If you can do it that way, that's nice. So she was saying, for her, what has worked in the past is actually looking around and actually being aware of the environment, and she would notice how it didn't look real or substantial in the way that it would normally appear. So it can be great reflection that it's not real, which can increase awareness, knowing the knower. Whenever the world drops away as real, when it no longer seems real, awareness seems to shine forth. The true self begins to shine forth. Or when you focus on love isn't awareness, or the true self, then the world will begin to merge in that and disappear in that. So you can do it both ways. Yeah. Nice. Any final question about this?
How about music, as far as
deeply spiritual music? Yeah, if you find it helps you to be internal, you can do that. Yes. Whatever helps you to know the knower. Yes, but ironically, ultimately, it doesn't matter what you do or listen to, because the knower knows it. Her enema? Yeah, you can do your enema. You can even do each other's enema if you want. Whatever helps. All right. Good night, my friends. One more question about this? Is there any sunrise qigong? Not that I know of, but maybe. Yes.